So intra-workout at the moment, I've just got 15 grams of EAAs, 25 grams of carbohydrates, and normally I'll put a serving of electrolytes and creatine in there. Forgot my electrolytes today, but I'm gonna make sure I put them in next time. I actually took this out initially, and like I will take this out when hunger gets so bad that you just want 25 grams of carbs and 15 grams of protein somewhere else. You want to eat that rather than drink it in a shake. But for right now, it's offering me such performance benefit, and I'm still eating 3,500 calories on my training day, so it's not like super low. So I can definitely afford to have a little bit into my intra. So if you guys notice that maybe you flag towards the end of your workouts, or if you train with someone and those sessions get to like 2 hours, something like this might really, really help your training. This is not only a prep hack, but also a peak bulk hack. And the best thing is I've gone from peak bulk to prep, so I don't even need like the interim. It's so handy. Save the back of your shoes, save your fingers. Alright guys, so we're back in the gym. A little bit of an update for you on that front. We had 4 days off, 4 complete days off. I say completely. Still did cardio every day. I needed that deload. I held on to doing any sort or form of deload for a very long time because I was gonna rest in December. I didn't. Carried on all the way until February. So I was in need of that. I got 10 weeks until we competed, or I did at the beginning of that. I had to take it now. So 4 days completely off. I'm feeling rested. I'm feeling considerably leaner. I was 115.5 kilos this morning. Started at 120, as you would have seen in the first episode. So this is probably a week, 10 days later, as we film these week in advance. And I'm feeling good, like I'm positive. I feel fresh. I just did 1 set here, and I'm hitting PBs, so I'm very excited to get into this workout. So let's get it. So guys, first exercise up on the menu. Cuff clavicular fly is my favorite for just that clavicular tissue. You see here we've got the daisy chains attached. Daisy chains attaching the cuff to the cable. Why? Because I can just reach here in the cable and I'm pretty much like in my start position. However, all I do is grab this anchor arm, pull it over, hold onto the seat, rock over to the other side, and again I'm not reaching all the way to the cable because the daisy chain brings it into position where I can just bring my arm forward, pull this forward, and lock into the back off. So reverse banded Smith press. I'm gonna keep this in I'm probably gonna keep this in. If I'm gonna change an incline press, it's gonna be the non-banded one because this banded one helps you out real hard. But when you get lighter, less body weight, less kind of just fucking energy to move it, the band kind of helps sometimes. So I'm gonna keep this in. This is 4 plates. Should be looking at 6+, which means we fucking are. Let's fucking go. Let's fucking go. That's easy. Yes! So that was good. That was still 2 reps up on before deload. So that's 4 complete days off. That means the deload was success because I'm 2 kilos lighter in body weight. And these are really important metrics to take note of. Body weight and how strong you are. Because you can't expect to lift the same, but when you've got anabolics in, you can. So I guess as a topic, obviously, of the video, steroids, the anabolics, the performance enhancing drugs that I'm going to be using. Something to like bring up right now would be Clen and Nuhimbine. 2 very, very stimulatory products, beta and alpha androgenetic receptor blockers. Essentially, they're going to go in, block that receptor. It's going to free up more adrenaline, noradrenaline, increase the chances of fat loss if you're in that deficit environment. Put it into a fasted environment, even better. But one of the side effects of Clen, Nuhimbine not so much, but Clen, maybe Nuhimbine acutely, but Clen will be sustained heart rate. So that's 2 or 3 minutes off set already, and I'm still at 127 heart rate. And that's something that will have to be managed and thought about. Because if your heart rate can't come down, you can't fully oxygenate yourself optimally, you're not going to be able to put as much into the set. So you've got to think about that. And Clen, one of those things I will use from start to finish. I'm not going to go into doses of clan just because. Do I need to explain it? Nah, I don't. I feel pretty peeled already, you know. Been dieting 10 days. That's ridiculous. I don't know if you can see it under that light. Legs literally got striations through. I feel like I just flushed out last night and got so lean. So 9 weeks, or 8.5 weeks is looking more doable. Oh yes, another PB. That's good. So good. So finishing up chest with like a horizontal plane press. Something a little bit lower, focus on driving our hands lower, that kind of big old pec meat at the bottom versus the clavicular tissue and the incline. So this is our final chest exercise. What we do with biceps and triceps, work the short range first, most contracted, then the lengthened after. Preacher, one of the most effective ways for that short range of the bicep. Should we see if the off-season abs, hey, this is 10 days into diet, by the way. But I trained abs quite a lot. They definitely seem thicker. Obviously, veins are popping through, but the main thing I'm looking at here is just the thickness between the abs, the fingers. I can connect down there. That is what I've been thinking about. This whole off-season is those contractions, deeper roots into those fucking abs. And I've got no other excuse on the stage, so Hopefully this is the year that they look good on stage. I'm hoping my face is a little bit slimmer on the screen. So, like we've done for the last 5 years on this channel, I'm going to keep it honest, going to keep it raw, and we're going to present it right to you, like the steroids that I'm taking, the performance enhancing drugs that I'm taking in order to get my place on that Olympia stage. I want to preface this, wherever you are. I'm not a doctor. This is not what you should do. I don't recommend anyone ever take steroids. And if you do, you know, that's on you. That is not on me. That is your decision to make. This is just the decisions that I'm making. I'm trying to show you the journey that I'm on while keeping it as honest as possible, while also keeping as mindful as possible that I am an influence. So hopefully I can do this in the right way. First things first, testosterone. Testosterone. Everyone loves a bit of testosterone, don't they? Yes, they do. A big fan of testosterone because it's bioidentical. Well, there's a long-term research into testosterone. You know, 50, 60 years, more than that now we're in 2023, of data on TRT and above, super physiological amounts of testosterone as well. So, you know, that is a go-to drug for me for sure. At the moment, I'm at 500 milligrams. That is the maximum that I've ever taken. This is my 5th year using steroids. This is probably my 7th or 8th cycle. Most have used 500 milligrams. I'm there right now. Bearing in mind, guys, I tapered up into this. I started at 300 milligrams. I'm just currently at 500 milligrams. Primobolan is the next one. Why Primobolan? Why does everyone like Primo? It's a very well-rounded drug. It's got some very good protein accretion while being very tissue selective, potentially a little bit more tissue selective in terms of androgenic purposes than Mastron, for example, if you were to interchange the two. It's a DHT derivative, so it's not going to push testosterone any higher. It's actually going to modulate your androgen to estrogen ratio, which potentially allows and facilitates higher testosterone. For example, when I first started using anabolics, I used 250 milligrams of testosterone. I had sensitive nipples and I started developing gyno. Now I can use 500 milligrams and not use any aromatase inhibitor at all. One, because of me being used to it, of course, over a long-term exposure, but actually because the Primobolan there offsetting that androgen to estrogen ratio, it just offers me a little bit more of going higher on testosterone. Primobolan at the moment has been 800 milligrams for the last few weeks. I am probably going to take that to 1,000 milligrams, and that'll be the peak dose that I take. Primobolan has been studied in women for up to 20 years, I think it is, up to like 1,200 milligrams with mild androgenic side effects. Me being a male, mild androgenic side effects is a good thing because it probably means not much at all in terms of Primobolan, and it's obviously a little bit safer. Not safe, but safer. Finally, Trenbolone. Trenbolone sandwiches, I eat them daily at the moment. I actually finished my bulking season on 150 milligrams. I then reduced it down to 75 milligrams, or actually 70 milligrams, just 10 milligrams a day, because I just wanted to give myself a little bit of a break and just have as much as I needed to maintain strength and the desired effects of Tren, the focus that it brings, as well as the effort and aggression in the gym. I wanted that minimum that I could hack without that kind of spilling over into everyday life. So I brought that down to a minimum of 70, and that's just where that is. That'll probably taper back up to 150 eventually. So those are pretty much my anabolics. Now, there are obviously things that we use that are called ancillary to those. For example, metformin. I use 500 milligrams of metformin before I sleep every night. This will just help with blood glucose and longevity. I use telmisartan. That's an angiotensin receptive blocker. I use 40 milligrams to attenuate my blood pressure into a stable range. It's also kidney protective, heart protective, cardiovascular protective. But most importantly, you're attenuating that blood pressure. I also use carnitine before fasting cardio, along with growth hormone, along with clenbuterol and euhimbine. Euhimbine, I started with 5 milligrams. I'm currently at 10 milligrams. I would taper up to 0.2 milligrams per kilogram of body weight. That'd be my maximum dose. With Clen, I'm personally not going to disclose what I take. Clen is one of those things that directly affects your heart rate. If you have any type of history in your family, cardiovascular disease, I recommend probably steering away where you can. So I'm not going to say you my dose, but I have started, and just like everything else, started with the minimum dose, and I'll taper up to the maximum that I feel safe with based off the data. And again, I'm not going to go into it, not for any other particular reason. There will be T3, T4, but right now that's not in. And that's it. That's what I'm taking right now to facilitate fat loss, along with just shifting some fasted cardio in. Deficit 6.5 kilos down in 14 days and significantly leaner for it, as I'm sure you'll see. That's it. I wanted to open with it. Obviously it's a title, but I wanted to not leave you hanging around for it. There it is. So guys, that's it. See you next clip. If none of you have used an air fryer before, you need to use an air fryer on most things. This is what it does to bacon medallions. Whoosh. Crispy. Meal one, sitting down. Talk to you in a second. Wow, that was nearly very intense. So guys, this is a normal meal one. I have 2 bagels. I either do 6 chicken sausages or I do 6 bacon medallions, and I'll put like a little bit of salad on there, maybe some tomatoes, and then I'll literally just have those. I'll then have 1 apple. I have a banana as well for some fruit, potassium, all those good things that we like to get from fruit. Sometimes I'll throw in some berries, but most of it is making an apple because I like it a lot. I'm very, very basic when it comes to fruit. But today, actually, it's the 14th of Happy Valentine's Day. Just realized. Hope you're having a great time with your loved ones. 2 days ago, I woke up at like 114.5, I think, and like I'd lost a lot of weight. I was a little bit flat. So yesterday we implemented like a first refeed, and I woke up lighter again today. So this is like the 2nd day of the refeed. So this is still a normal meal. All I'm gonna do is throw in like a little bit extra into my next meal, just to kind of account for that for the day. But meal one sets me up nicely. Can't get away from bacon medallions so far. When my macros do come down a little bit, I may switch to something like egg whites, but for now it's too good. Also this Philadelphia under here, lighter than light Philadelphia. Under there. So make it taste good, enjoy it. A little bit of brown sauce. I literally don't even measure it because I'm not gonna change it. I'm gonna do my little pattern and that's it. Meal one, baby. This is a low salt. This is something that I add into so many of my meals because some of the things that guys and girls, and they, however they want to be identified, miss out potassium. Sorry for the dirty plate. Miss out potassium, and this is 66% less sodium and more potassium, so you get much more potassium. You should be pretty much matching potassium with salt, about 5,000 milligrams per day, so that is something I throw on. Post-workout meal here, 120 grams of rice, 100 carb, chicken, which is cooking. So generally, post-workout, my goal here is lower fats, higher carbohydrates. Why? Because we've just depleted carbohydrates. We have just been devoid of carbohydrates, and in order to replenish carbohydrates, you need to eat carbohydrates, which is why we maximize carbohydrates post-workout. You also have an upregulation of a glucose transporter enzyme, GLT4, I believe, GLUT4, glucose transporter 4, which basically increases our ability to absorb and eat carbohydrates, like basically get the nutrients out of them. So it makes sense for us in a diet, most of the time, but in a diet specifically, to be putting most of our carbohydrates, not only pre-workout to perform well, but post-workout to recover well. That's really important. What's up, people? So this kind of went down pretty well in the last video, the kind of voiceover vibe. So we're going to voice over legs for you today. Now we start legs, as you can see, with calf raises. Now I just genetically have quite good calves, kind of lucky like that. But some of the key notes I want you guys to focus on is like that Achilles tendon, like it's to do with a lot of stretch, like it can take a lot of tension, and in taking that tension, it's like elastic tension that can bounce back up. So I want you to try and pause it in those lengthened and short ranges, basically just when the leg's up, when the leg's down, and keep it nice and simple. Really, really focus about control. I started off with leg extensions. I tend to always start off with leg extensions, work the quad in a short range where you can actually get your leg fully extended safely. Think about doing full extension on a leg press or a hack squat, you're gonna snap your leg real quick. So I like to load it nicely. A few keynotes here. You want to pull yourself into the pad pretty darn hard because you don't want your hips to raise up, because you want to be able to create as much knee flexion as possible. The foot pad, where you would have the foot pad, I want you to focus on having it higher up the knee. That's going to kind of reduce the shear force through the front of the knee. So some of you guys might get knee issues. I used to. I put up a little bit and it helped quite a lot. 2 sets here. Everything will be 2 sets. Work until failure. Don't need too much more when I'm training my legs because ultimately I do wear shorts. But always warming up with extensions first and then lying leg curls, or lying leg curls first, then extensions, depending on which machine's free. Lying leg curls, similarly, try and put that foot pad about midway up the shin, just for comfort, to get full range of motion, to load it the best as possible. Similarly, holding yourself into the pad. Similarly, keeping your bum down as well, actually, but just in the reverse order. You're pushing your hips forward rather than pushing your hips down. And just ultimately getting fluid into the knee, moving those prime movements for a squat, getting them warm, getting yourself into a safe position or a safer position to carry a great more deal of load through the knee, through the hip, through the ankle, and ultimately through the spine as well. So once we're nice and warm up, quads, hamstrings, feeling really good, then we start to load up the hack squat and move up. Now, you see me start on 2 plates. That is generally because I'm quite strong. Not everyone can start on 2 plates. You know, start on half, it's all got to be relative to you. So for me, because I'm going to end up doing 6 here, 2 feels pretty easy, 2, 3, 4, 5. See how each of those go. No more than 1 or 2, maybe 3 or 4 reps at the start, but I'm not trying to take away any fatigue. I'm not trying to build any fatigue. I'm just trying to prime mentally, muscularly, to get ready to load, ultimately, a top set. So then working up to the top set. Now, I'm lighter in this than I was 2 weeks ago, much lighter, actually about 6 kilos lighter. So in order to achieve the same load, it was going to be very difficult. So I took a tactical drop here. I actually had 5 plates on the week before. I just wanted to make sure that my form was perfect. So here, you can see, this is like a really mechanically good squat, if I do say so myself. There's no leaky energy. My knees don't flail side to side. My hips don't move. I'm not like moving my arms or anything. My center of gravity is directed in. I'm taking a big breath, and I'm just pushing as hard as I can on that belt, obviously without trying to blow a hernia out, but just safely keeping that intra-abdominal wall pressure hard, and I'm pushing through the base of my feet. I will try and keep the back offset as fluid as possible. So I'm aiming for 10 plus reps, 12, 13, 14 reps. I'm going to try and do that unbroken if I can, to generate as much tension in those quads as possible. It is hard on your lungs, but if you're pretty fit, which I'm pretty fit because I've kept cardio in, and also I'm a little bit leaner here, so my actual engine is probably increasing. Moving on to a banded leg press here. I do this single leg. Now, the reason why we're banding this here is to add tension. You can see here we're using the daisy chains along with a carabiner, along with a band over the handle. And now all this is doing is adding tension where we want to add that tension into the quad. We want it to drop off as we get into a slightly unsafe position or a less safe position, as well as when the quad is actually in a weaker position, being in that fully lengthened. And then we want to load it up as the quad gets strong, like we would do with a leg extension, like we would do with any type of reverse band or band. Add tension to the top, and that's what we're doing here. So single leg just allows me to get more range of motion on this. Sometimes doing like 2 sets of leg press after a hack squat, it's so fucking hard that like those 2 sets of leg press are almost suboptimal. And I've just found that switching to 1 leg, though you're still taxing that same muscle as hard as it feels like if you're doing it 2 legs, because the weight is significantly less, you're like not feeling the load as much. You're not building as much fatigue when you're doing it single leg. So I find I can get a little bit more out of it. Now we finish up here with another couple sets on hamstrings, seated this time. So obviously we are contracting the hamstrings in hip flexion right now in the seated, and will be an extension in the lying. You do want to do both because they'll put the hamstrings in slightly different positions, lengthening it a little bit more, shortening it a little bit more, loading this up as much as possible with the exact same, honestly, those exact same things that we're taking from those leg extensions and those hamstring curls. If you want to reiterate it, foot pad in a safe position, putting yourself into the pad, hips down, bracing the core. Those are the fundamentals things that you could take into pretty much most lift. Finish up, we just load up with adductors, abductors, and a little bit of hyperextension just to failure, because at that point we're absolutely smoked. Those muscles are small. The energy demand on these exercises is small. So we're just like teetering around. And obviously I don't need to bury myself into oblivion when I'm going to put shorts on, you know? So I'm all good. And I hope you enjoyed this leg session. Again, we love your feedback on the last video. Let us know again about this, and we'll see you in the next clip.